Welcome back, Math D, Lesson 17. We're going to be starting on our workbook pages. Go ahead and find part 1 on your workbook pages. It's like this. You're going to write names and numbers in number families. You'll then figure out how to answer each problem. Remember, the name that goes under the family tells about everything in the family. The name at the end of the arrow is all. Another way of saying that is total. Problem A. There were 89 children on the playground. 47 of the children were girls. How many were boys? All right, so reading that problem, there were 89 children altogether, so I know that's my big number. So I'm going to go ahead and put 89 at the end of my arrow. I know I'm talking about children, so I will write that underneath. So I have 89 children. They want to know how many boys and how many girls I had. So let's see, girls, boys. Can I plug in? 47 of the children were girls, so 47 were girls. So in order for me to find out how many boys we had, you guys can see that, I'm going to work backwards, okay? So 89 minus 47. 7 minus 9, 2. 8 minus 4, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. 42. So I'm going to plug that in here. And I had 42 boys. You know I love my labels. Don't forget the label. All right, problem 2. The next 2 I'm going to just set up for you and you are going to complete on your own. Problem B. 168 plants in a garden were alive. Okay, so I'm talking about plants. And I'm talking about alive plants. There were 209 plants in the garden altogether. How many were dead? So I have alive and dead. And altogether I had 209. And how many did I have alive? 168. So I have my big number and one small number. So in order to figure this out, I have to work backwards. 209 minus 168. That will give you the answer for dead plants. Go ahead and figure that out. You're going to have to borrow in the second column. C. 345 of the lights in the building were turned on. So I have lights. What's the opposite of turned on? Off. So let's say on, off, all. 345 lights in the building were turned on. 345. 236 were turned off. 236. How many lights were there in all? Well, that's a lot of lights for one building. All right, so I'm going to look for my big number. So in order to find my big number, what do I do? 345 plus 236. Okay? And then you're going to tell me how many lights are in all. So your label here is going to be lights. Go ahead and complete those. You can pause here if you need to. Otherwise, we're just going to move on. Part 2. Each problem is an area problem with the length shown of 2 sides. One of the sides is a 2-digit length and the other one is a 1-digit length. When you work the area problems, you'll write the 2-digit length on top and the 1-digit length underneath. So, looking at part 2, I'll show you. Okay, we're writing multiplication sentences for these problems to figure out how many square units I have within my different shapes. So A is, if you look at it, it was inches. So on the top I had 34, and then I multiplied by 5 to find out how many square inches I will have. Don't forget to put your label. I'm just going to help you guys set these problems up because these are easy peasy. Problem B, 23 yards by 2 yards. So then I have 23 times 2 square yards. Okay, and I am just writing the abbreviated version of the words so I have more room. And fee. Let me squeeze it in right here. C, I have 18 miles by 9 miles. So I have 18 times 9 equals blank square miles. Okay, don't forget you always need the word square because we know that it is a square. And then we need the label that is given with the problem. All right, if you go ahead and look at part 3. You are going to write each problem as a column problem. Remember, line up the digits so that you have 2 digits in the ones column, 2 digits in the tens column, possibly 2 digits in the hundreds column, okay? It says you can use a calculator. You can if you want. I just want to show you that I did set the first one up for you guys. You're rewriting it as a column problem, okay? So rewrite those and solve for your answer. We are going to be skipping part 4 in the book. We're going to jump over to part 5. I'll read what it says. Follow along. Some tables have totals at the end of the rows and totals at the bottom of the columns. These tables work just like number families that go along each row that go down each column. You can work the table that has arrows for rows. The first 2 numbers in each row are the same numbers. The total is the big number. If you add the small numbers for each row, you get the total for that row. Look at the top row. Small numbers are 3 and 4. The big number is 7. 3 plus 4 equals 7. The other rows work the same way. The next table shows arrows for the columns. The 2 numbers in each column are small numbers. The total at the bottom of each column is the big number. If you add the small numbers for each column, you get the total. Look at the first column. The small numbers are 3 and 8. What's the big number? 11. 3 plus 8 equals 11. The other columns work the same way. I'll read the rules. If there are 2 missing numbers in a row, you can figure out the missing number. If there is only 1 missing number in a row, you can't figure out the missing number. The same rules hold for columns. If there are 2 numbers in a column, you can figure out the missing number. If there's only 1 number in a column, you can't figure out the missing number. Remember those rules. How many numbers have to be in the same row for us to be able to solve the problem? 2. Okay, so if there's only 1 number missing, we have to solve other problems first. All right, so go ahead and jump over to your workbook page. And I believe I've stated this before. Pay no attention to those arrows. These are the exact same problems, and they are just trying to show you that no matter which way you work, your totals are going to be the same. So you can go across, down. You do not have to follow those arrows specifically. So I wrote mine with no arrows, okay? So remember those rules. You have to have at least 2 numbers in a row to be able to solve. For example, 1, 2. If I work down, I can solve here. If I'm working across, I can't solve here because I just have 1. If I'm working down, I can't solve here because I have 2. Okay, so I'm going to just go through and see where I can solve. First things first, I'm going to look at my first row across. You can look at your first row down, but I usually like to go this way. So these are my totals, the last row and the bottom row. So if you're working this way, these are your totals. If you're working this way, these are your totals. So knowing that this 60 is my total, this is a small number. To find this middle number, I say 60 minus 48. Okay, gonna have to borrow here on this problem. So I'm gonna have to take 1 from 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. So I have 10 minus 8, which is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. So I'm gonna plug my 12 in here. Okay, now I have an entire row here and an entire row there. Awesome. So when I go down to this second row, I still see that I can't quite solve this one yet. I still can't quite solve this one, but I can solve this one or this one. So let me go ahead and I'm going to say 48. I'll solve this one, 48 and 78, so I can get this total. All right, so this is my total, 78 down here. So I have to subtract 78 by 48. 78 minus 48. 8 minus 8 is 0. 7 minus 4. All right, so I'm going to plug that in. Now, do you see how I went this way and this way? So those arrows, they don't really mean anything. I think that it's silly that they teach you both those ways. But any way that you go, if you have at least 2 numbers, you can solve it. All right, so now looking at this row again, remember I couldn't solve it because I just had 1 problem. Now I have 2, so I can actually solve it. So this is my total row if I'm going this way. So I get to add now because this plus this is going to equal this. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 1 is 4. My answer is 45. All right, same thing with my bottom row. Since this is my last box missing, I can just work across. I'm missing my big number, okay? So I'm going to add those together. 78 plus 27. Okay, 7 plus 8, 15. 5 down, carry the 1. 7 plus 1 is 8, 9, 10, 105. Okay, so on your workbook page, since they're trying to show you that you can do both types of problems this either way, they're the exact same answers. So you can fill them in twice. All right, jumping over to part 2. These fractions equal whole numbers. Remember to ask that question when you work them out. 36 divided by 4, which is 8. These are just division problems. This one is 16 divided by 8, 20 divided by 4, 12 divided by 3, 35 divided by 5. And part 3, down here on the bottom, or across. You are going to write thousands numerals. Remember, the comma after the last digit of the thousands. The comma comes after the last digit of the thousands. The comma for thousands and for 100,000s are marked. Remember, the column between thousands and 100 numerals is any value that has 2,000 digits. 30,000 starts in that column, so does 66,000. Read description A and write the numeral. Okay, so description A says 41,061. Well, I'm going to try and write this down really quick. Okay. So they're nice enough to write 100,000 up here and thousands up here. All right, so 14,000. So it's not 1,400,000, it's just 14,000. So this is my thousands column, this is my hundreds thousands column. So my last digit of my thousand is going to end here. So I'm going to put it here, 4, and then put the 1 in front of it because that's 14. Now just after the word thousand, you're going to put your comma. You can actually go down the row if you'd like and put your comma right at the end of the thousands column. Okay, so 14,000 61. Do I have 14,661 or just 61? Because then ones, tens, hundreds, all right, so I just have 61, I'm sorry. So I don't have any hundreds, but I do have 61 tens, okay? Go ahead and look at the second one. 318,400. Now 318, am I going to start at the 100,000, 318,000, or at the thousands? Definitely going to start at the 100,000 because 318, that's 3 digits, that's 100,000. So 318,000, I already have my comma because I plugged it in. 400. So I know how many hundreds I have. I have 4. I don't have any ones. I want you guys to go ahead and complete those, the rest of those. And when you are finished, go ahead, jump back into the book and do your independent work. When you are finished, please submit to your teacher.